Hi there, it is a Thursday night. Thanks for joining us on NTV tonight, and these are among the top stories lined up for you. Tonight, this will be a hard swallow for patients living with HIV.
Current risks that are there right now is that we are facing a possible, stock out, and the risks there lie on close to almost 900 patients who've been living with HIV.
The country could soon run out of ARV stocks as much-needed drugs still lie idle at the port. Also tonight,
who authorized the 228 to be vaccinated using the Russian vaccine?
The Pharmacy and Poisons Board still doesn't have the answers.
We don't seek permission from any quarters to issue authorization. We only depend on science.
Plus, no refuge even at home.
The one who had gone upstairs with my wife just said Nimemaliza, and then I had two gunshots.
Police are looking for journalist Betty Baraza's killers. And also tonight, the COVID numbers are numbing. But still, there are doubters and rule flouters.
Mask hapa na ilikuwa hapa na sijui imeenda wapi.
NTV Tonight with Smriti Vidyarthi.
All that and more coming up in this broadcast, hosted by myself and David Agondoa on the sign language. Now, the impasse between the government and donor US aid over the release of the life-saving antiretroviral drugs for persons living with HIV remains unresolved, with a possible serious crisis pointing to a complete stockout in the next few months. The Ministry of Health maintains that despite the clearance for the consignment stuck at the port of Mombasa, US aid has refused to engage with the ministry, and that its decision to enlist a US private company, Chemonix International, as a consignee of the drugs, sidestepping KEMSA, a government entity, is against the laid out protocols. Zainab Ismail brings us that report shortly. Elsewhere, the Health Professional Association has rejected in totality the Health Laws Amendment Bill 2021. The association accuses Parliament and the Ministry of Health of a plot to use the bill to oust them from control and management of the health sector.
A rift is quickly widening between the Ministry of Health, health professionals and Parliament. The Health Professionals Association, which brings together various medical umbrella bodies, has decried the stipulations of the Health Laws Amendment Bill 2021.
We hereby reject the entire Health Laws Amendment Bill 2021 and call upon the Cabinet Secretary to withdraw the proposed amendments.
At the intentions of this bill, it is actually to remove the professionals from consultative and daily interrogation of issues that affect health.
The bill has introduced the Attorney General and the Health and National Treasury Principal Secretaries to all health regulatory boards. The proposed law also gives the Health Cabinet Secretary discretion to appoint members of the board of a regulatory institution without what the stakeholders have termed as the checks and balances that Article 10 of the Constitution provides. Some of the stakeholders feel that including the Attorney General in all regulatory councils presents a conflict of interest in cases where a government facility is being brought to task on regulatory matters. The bill also proposes to amend and align particular acts of the various medical boards and councils to the Mwongozo Code of Governance for State Corporations. This seeks to allow for removal of the conditional nominations in the appointment of board members.
That in these various national organizations, there is a dearth of professional representation, and then you get business and political interests seizing the day. And who finally suffers? It is you and me.
The Pharmacy and Poisons Board has been running the second year now without a board. So who is providing emergency authorization for Sputnik vaccine in this country if there's no board? If there are no board minutes, who is approving these vaccines to be used in the country? Is it the cabinet secretary? Yeah. Who is going to protect our leaders, the CEO and his directors at the Pharmacy and Poisons Board? Who is going to protect him against the pressure, yeah, the negative pressure from, we know business people have interests.
The Federation of Health Professional Association represents over 150,000 health workers in Kenya. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Questions that certainly do need answering. All right, on to a chilling story now, and police have launched a probe into the murder of Betty Baraza, a journalist at KBC, following a house robbery. The senior video editor was shot and killed by armed robbers who had forced their way into her family home. The Media Council of Kenya has condemned the killings as the police start their investigations into the incident.
Thursday morning in Oluluwagong, and residents of this normally quiet neighborhood remained shocked after what transpired the previous night. Betty Baraza, a senior video editor at the Kenya Broadcast Corporation, headed home before the unthinkable happened.
Nikifungua gate akaingia, then after a few minutes kama gari jasimama vizuri na wao wanatokea na hii side, wanakuja mbio. Mmoja akakuja kanishika, mimi nika scream, akaniekea gun, then mwingine akakimbia kwa gari. Mama yeye venye aliniona nime scream na yeye naye ana scream.
The two women were then forced into the house by the young gunmen. Betty's husband, Jeffrey, and their 3 children were inside.
They asked me whether they kill me or I surrender. I said, me, I surrender. Take what you want, but spare our lives. They wanted money. They say what they want is money. What they managed to get from the house was the laptop, office laptop, and the charger.
In the middle of the scuffle, Betty was led upstairs into a dressing room by one of the armed gunmen.
The one who had gone upstairs with my wife just said, "Nimemaliza," and then I had 2 gunshots. I thought maybe they are scaring her.
Betty was in fact shot dead. The armed men thereafter took off with a laptop and several phones and Jeffrey's wedding ring. The members of the household then proceeded to raise the alarm. Police say they have launched an investigation into the incident.
In my view, that is normal robbery, though we are yet to establish the motive. What transpired at the upstairs, nobody can tell. It's still too green. Investigations are going on. In the course of investigations through the DCI, they were able to recover one mobile phone, which is believed to be for the deceased.
If there's any conflict, then I'm not aware. I have not seen if she's someone who is confrontational. Okay. She is not. So I don't know the motive.
The Media Council of Kenya has since condemned the killing and called for an expeditious investigation into the incident. The MCK also called out the acts of violence towards journalists and media practitioners, terming it a violation of press freedom. Anita Konge, NTV.
Our condolences to Betty's family, and it is certainly a story that we will be following up on. All right, now tonight we report that in the last 24 hours, 1,698 more people have tested positive for the coronavirus. This takes the total number of recorded infections up to 143,063. The new cases are out of a sample size of 11,352, which puts the positivity rate at 14.9%. 16 deaths have been reported in the same time frame, with one of the deaths occurring in the last 24 hours and the others being late death reports occurring on diverse dates. A total of 2,292 people have now succumbed to COVID-19. There have, however, been 456 more recoveries, with a total of 97,650 recoveries. There are still, though, 1,620 people admitted in various hospitals, with 235 in intensive care. And we report that as of yesterday, a total of 378,363 people had been vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. All right, that figure ought to be 378,363 total people vaccinated with AstraZeneca. Well, only 2 days after the county government of Kisumu issued new and more stringent COVID-19 protocols, some Kisumu residents, more so those in the service industry, have continued to flout the containment measures with reckless abandon. Oko Okusa reports that this is happening at a time when government data indicates that community transmission in the Lakeside County is rising at a concerning rate.
Somewhere along the Jomo Kenyatta Avenue in Kisumu's central business district, a crowd has gathered, masks hanging on their chins. Despite the soaring numbers of COVID-19 infection in the town, residents are yet to embrace mask wearing and social distancing as ways of stopping the spread of the virus in a county where 2,606 patients have been reported from 28,710 tests by Easter.
Mask hata na ilikuwa hapa na sijui imeenda wapi. Na naangalia hata sijapata.
Mara ya mwisho ilikuwa na ilikuwa saa ngapi?
Saa hii tu napata kuna. Nisaidie hiyo. Leta ya 10.
Mahali pa polisi huko tunajifunika. Mahali penye polisi hakuna tunatoa. Kwa hivyo hata huyu polisi anapokuja kukushika unapata kwamba hana maski. Anakuja tu anakushika akiwa na maski, akiweka ndani ya gari anatoa maski. Kwa hiyo nyinyi wote mnafanana.
Mimi navaa mask kwa sababu watu wanavaa tu. Sasa ni kama uniform. Nikikosa kuvaa niko tofauti na watu, lakini corona hakuna.
Sasa mimi corona kwa upande wangu, my own opinion, corona iko. And I don't believe iko.
Just last week alone, 99 residents tested positive, while the previous week 144 were diagnosed with the virus, prompting both the county and the national governments to issue fresh containment measures.
Border shall strictly carry only one passenger, with tuk-tuks carrying a maximum of 2 passengers.
But on the ground, things are different. Both motorcycle and tricycle operators go about their business in full disregard of the directives. A spot check by NTV revealed that despite issuing the orders, the enforcement of the same has been lacking, leaving the flouting residents to roam about the town, endangering their own lives and those of the rest of the population. Oko Okusa, NTV, Kisumu.
Well, a lot of it does come down to personal responsibility. The measures are there and they're, of course, pretty straightforward. Wear your mask properly. That's over your nose and mouth, not hanging on your chin. It's not going to help. Wash your hands, sanitize, and keep your distance. These are measures that could curb spread the COVID-19 virus, or rather they will, and also could save lives. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has today commissioned a 4 billion shilling gun manufacturing factory in Ruiru, that's in Kiambu County. The facility is set to address the high cost of weapons acquisition and provide the security sector independence and allow the country to produce high-quality weapons. Naoma Sampao has that story.
The factory, part of the National Security Industries Network, seeks to move the country from traditional outsourcing to self-reliance in arms dealing and strengthening the country's security equipment production, a first in East Africa. Kenya has manufactured about 12,000 rifles, with 60% of the components being locally manufactured. The local production aims to reduce dependence on imported parts and save the country from expenditure.
Not only will this support our national security requirements, but it will also aid in national economic and technological advancement by creating local industrial capacity that can be scaled up to various other uses. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a game changer. We plan to create a weapons manufacturing surplus that will transform Kenya into an exporter of security equipment to nations in the region and the rest of the world. This will not only boost our balance of trade position, but it will also create employment.
By 2022, the factory will diversify to include 9mm pistols and assault rifles. President Kenyatta further said the project is part of his government's efforts in supporting local technological advancement, part of the Big Four agenda.
So this groundbreaking initiative will allow us to lay the foundation for addressing, first and foremost, the high cost of weapons acquisition, free us from the complex foreign export approval processes currently in place, provide Kenya with greater security sector independence and flexibility.
It's so exciting to see these young people, all of them young people, trained in Kenya, who have gone to Kenyan institutions, and all these people needed all along is courageous and visionary leadership to give them an opportunity to use the talent they have and the education they have acquired to serve their country.
So far, 4 billion shillings has been spent on the factory, which is expected to produce over 1,000 guns a month. The historical project is also expected to provide 100 direct employment and 1,100 indirect employment in the form of supply of raw materials, among other benefits. Nayoma Sampao, NTV.
Right, from that, let's take you back to our top story and the impasse between the government and donor US aid over the release of the life-saving antiretroviral drugs, that's ARVs, for people living with HIV remains unresolved, with a possible serious crisis pointing to a complete stockout in the next few months. The Ministry of Health maintains that despite the clearance for the consignment stuck at the port of Mombasa, US aid has refused to engage with the ministry. Zainab Ismail has the details.
The lives of 1.2 million HIV patients remain in jeopardy as the much-needed ARV drugs continue to lie at the port of Mombasa, with the dispute between the Ministry of Health and the donor USAID stretching out longer.
We are facing a possible, stockout, and the risks there lie on close to almost 900 patients who've been living with HIV and who require the necessary drugs and medications. When we look at our stock levels and we look at our logistic levels, I can tell you, honorable members, that there is a risk of stockout for some of these commodities, particularly in terms of how we distribute them to the clients in terms of 3 to 6 month refills.
On Wednesday, the Ministry of Health said it had received approval and clearance for the drugs to be released for distribution after the 90 million shilling tax impulse after the National Treasury waived the fees. However, Health CAS Dr. Mercy Mwangangi says USAID has remained non-committal on the way forward, leaving the standoff yet to be fully resolved. She says USAID sidestepped protocols in enlisting the private company Kenomics International as a consignee.
One of the key challenges, or rather the biggest challenge actually here, is that we needed and we are required through law to have KEMSA as a consignee of these products and medicines that come in. And therefore, the issue there is the unilateral decision to utilize a private consignee and to proceed with that, and therefore then bring about the current impasse, and of course then the risk of stockouts.
But Chair, I thought you only needed to pay the tax if those people were bringing in. Now, then why are you now saying the tax issue has been resolved?
Tax issue, yes, tax has been paid, but remember, there's still a consignee who's holding these items, who is not KEMSA.
HIV treatment items are ordinarily received through KEMSA. Imports through private firms do not qualify for special exemptions and are subject to the normal clearance procedure. With KEMSA the centre of one of the country's hugest graft scandals, questions arise over whether this influenced USAID's decision.
It's Dr. is saying that USAID is quiet, nothing is happening, they are not talking, you call a meeting, they don't say anything.
Has there been any formal complaint from USAID, and why the change of, the guard, I would say? Why would they now want to go private instead of using the government commodity and facility?
What time did you realize that USAID was not willing to work with KEMSA and what was planning to engage another private entity?
I can tell you we reached out intensely on whether they would stick towards the KEMSA MCP model or whether there were any other alternative arrangements to be made.
Although USAID has maintained that they are not able to meet the Ministry of Health, I'm aware yesterday they did meet the Council of Governors and they were able to meet. So that means that if they're able to meet the Council of Governors, they're also able to meet us. I take note that the challenge we currently have with the lack of communication.
For now, HIV patients will have to contend with the depleting stocks as the consignment lies at the port, with both the government and USAID failing to reach a consensus. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
Still on health matters, and the Pharmacy and Poisons Board is coming under increasing pressure to explain the circumstances under which it authorized the Russian COVID vaccine's emergency use, Sputnik. This comes days after the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya queried the legality of PPB's actions in the absence of a board. The National Assembly's Health Committee took its officials to task, and Olive Burrows has those proceedings.
First, the officials at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority stood accused of taking advantage of a pandemic to line their pockets. Now it's the Pharmacy and Poisons Board.
Poisons Board have taken advantage of the Emergency Authorization Act that was established during this time of pandemic to allow unscrupulous people to take advantage also of Kenyans. Because for you to go ahead and disregard the World Health Organization, even at the time before you concluded the vaccine was in the country, how did this company knew that we were going to get authorization?
The PPB taken to task over the circumstances under which it authorized the emergency use of the Sputnik V vaccine. That is, before the National Emergency Response Committee to the COVID pandemic pulled the plug.
I am worried, and with this committee we need to know who to hold responsible. Last time the ministry met with us, they said no single vial had left the storage or the cold system. Who authorized the 228 to be vaccinated using the Russian vaccine?
We did it of our own accord, was the government agency's response.
We don't seek permission from any quarters to issue authorization. We only depend on science. We didn't use the reliance mechanism where WHO requirement would have been important. We used the full dossier assessment mechanism. So it was now the Ministry of Health to take over this product that has been approved.
Hubris, a case of sense, is uncommon perhaps, but what the Oversight Committee on Health caught a whiff of was possible corruption.
These are new drugs. Even WHO has not authorized. You then have an emergency under which you are authorizing. What was the emergency? You are saying it was up to the ministry staff to now know how they apply this drug. Who has a duty to let the ministry know we have a drug, somebody is asking to import this drug, you are making a policy on this, we have the National Emergency Response Team.
Suspicions shared by the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya, and if their decision to nip Sputnik in the bud for want of WHO approval is anything to go by, the Ministry of Health as well.
We stood the risk of reversing the gains that had been made so far in terms of the COVID response by engaging and allowing continued engagement of the private sector, and that we needed to first have a very robust system, putting in place systems to ensure at the end of the day that no Kenyan gets accounted.
Given the misgivings that already surround the COVID vaccines and the risk posed to public health, the people's representatives are demanding that the Ministry of Health get its house in order and fast.
The responsibility lies with Poisons Board. Actions must be taken against these officials.
Olive Burrows, NTV.
All right, now we take a quick break. More on the other side.
What does it take to move a nation? It starts with a dream. A dream which gains momentum and becomes bigger and better and more audacious. What does it take to move a nation? It takes the commitment to innovate and invest in breakthrough technology, to build partnerships across the continent, to create connections, to enable businesses to make their dreams a reality. What does it take to move a nation? It takes Sandy.
At the first sign of pain, you need a solution that you can trust to provide effective relief and is gentle on the stomach. Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance. This has been Medifax for Panadol.
Invest in the new, fully furnished Grand Suisse Suites situated on the serene Riat Hills in Kisumu City. Each unit has a modern ensuite bedroom, a spacious living area, and a modern kitchen. At only 5 million Kenya shillings, a buyer is guaranteed a monthly income of 40,000 shillings, plus free access to facilities at the Grand Royal Swiss Hotel. Call us on 0720-927-238.
Rais Uhuru Kenyatta ambaye amekuja akanitoa kwa kitanda.
Ati president ametoa baba kwa kitanda akamsimamisha ndio ampee kiti. When you're operating on someone, ni muhimu sana usitampa na kitu hata place ya language. Unaweza guza msee amke akiwa Mkisii na alikuwa amelala.
Our brand new gated community project, Happy Gardens in Kitengela. You matter to us. Pay 800k on any of our projects and get 20k cashback. Pop! Call us now on 0790 300 300.
Welcome back. Now, remember the Kilifi Deputy Governor Gideon Saburi, who came into the limelight when he was accused of moving around while COVID-19 positive? Well, the man who attracted a lot of rage from the public is now free because a Mombasa court has declared him not guilty of charges of willfully exposing himself in public while suffering from COVID-19 without taking proper precautions. The court ruled that by the time Saburi was being charged, COVID-19 had not been declared an infectious disease. The offence occurred between March the 6th and the 22nd, 2020, but COVID-19 was officially gazetted as an infectious disease on March 27th. In her ruling, the Mombasa Chief Magistrate said that the Health CS should coordinate with the Attorney General to urgently amend the Public Health Act to include COVID-19 as an infectious disease. All right, politics now, and there is a fresh push to have ODM leader Raila Odinga run for the presidency in 2022, with the possibility of the party's National Executive Committee extending the period for submission of nomination papers. Multiple sources indicate the move is being spearheaded by Senate Minority Leader James Orengo and National Assembly Minority Whip Junet Mohammed. NTV senior political affairs reporter Kennedy Morevi has those details.
The Orange Democratic Party leader Raila Odinga has kept mum over whether he will be vying for president in 2022, but his silence has not left room for speculation. Though he maintains his current focus is on the Building Bridges initiative along President Uhuru Kenyatta, those close to him insist on his candidacy.
Hiyo ndio itakuwa ni missing link, na itakuwa sasa mwingie ndani ya Nairobi nywe.
In fact, they believe he is the best bet to beat Deputy President William Ruto.
But as far as concerned with the question of Raila running, I cannot be second guessed. I've always said that Not only that he has had a lot of his victories stolen in the past, but I have for many times that I cannot count, proposed him, supported him as the person that I think should run.
Senate Minority Leader James Orengo and National Assembly Minority Whip Junet Mohammed have been accused of running a personal agenda in insisting on Odinga's candidature. Junet and Orengo have allegedly been alluding to the ODM National Executive Committee being in a position to reconsider the timelines for submission of nomination papers to accommodate Odinga.
I want you to show me anything in the regulations within the constitution of ODM where it says that once an election period for invitation or nomination papers closes, you cannot open or you cannot reconsider it.
Odinga has for decades remained the leading political figure in Nyanza, and most politicians from the region have depended on his goodwill to sell their agenda. His running for presidency resuscitates political careers, and hence the push to have him on the ballot, according to a source within the ranks of the party's leadership. Just last week, there was confusion on whether Odinga had tendered his nomination papers after a letter from the Elections Board had indicated he was among those that had sought the party's ticket, before the communique was rescinded and termed as an April Fool's Day prank.
I don't know whether he has tendered or not, but he has said himself through his personal, press secretary, Dennis Onyango, that is not correct.
After the debacle of the alleged Fool's Day prank, the party says only two aspirants have shown interest. That is Deputy Party Leaders Governors Ali Hassan Joho and Wycliffe Oparanya. It is not clear when the National Executive Committee will meet to review the deadlines, reportedly to accommodate the party leader. Some party members believe it is still too early to speak about the party's ticket. Another group believes that 3 months to the elections is enough to declare candidacy and campaign. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
Now, there will be no special sittings of Parliament called to debate the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020, better known as the BBI Bill, as Parliament's Joint Justice and Legal Affairs Committee now counts on experts to give a way forward. According to Joint Chair Muturi Kigano, the process is on course and the report to be tabled in both Houses of Parliament will be ready by the time both houses return from recess. Kigano said the team working on the report is critically looking at the views expressed by the different groups that appeared for public participation, including submissions by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission on the creation of those additional constituencies. Members of the two committees have now been granted authority to hold physical meetings by both Speakers of Parliament for 5 days in efforts to firm up the report and table it in the House. For the National Assembly, the report will be tabled on the 4th of May when the House reconvenes, while in the Senate it will be tabled on the 11th of May.
We are on course, and because of the interruptions by COVID, we have given this exercise a full 5 days from 19th through 5 days to be able to wrap up the report and give a report that can stand the test of time.
But if the committee is ready and they would want to table the report, that's a ground sufficient enough for me to recall the House.
All right, to Baringo County now, and the body of the late Paul Kipchappas, which was buried outside a classroom in Koroto High School in Baringo North, has been exhumed following an order that was issued by the Cabinet Law Courts on Wednesday. The family members who failed to show up during the exercise said they were following directives that had been issued by the deceased just before his death. Ruth Samwe reports.
Public health officials arrived at Koroto Day High School to exhume the body of 61-year-old Paul Kipchappas, who was buried outside this classroom exactly 2 weeks ago. The exhumation follows a directive by a cabinet court.
It is not relevant whether there are
on the primary section or the secondary section of the school, it remains a nuisance and must be removed.
Kipchappas died on the 26th of March and was hurriedly buried in the dark of the night 3 days later. Buried in this shallow cemented grave, the family says they were following directives issued by the deceased.
Mimi nina machozi kwa maana nilikuwa na marehemu mpaka akiaka. Alisema kama mara 4, akiniambia shemeji nikienda nisikwe kwa shamba yangu. Shemeji nikienda nishikwe kwa shamba yangu.
The deceased relatives say that this is not a first for them.
Katika hiyo shamba ya babu yetu, si huyo peke yake amesikwa hapo. Kuna miili zingine 3.
The exhumation took 3 hours as security officers were forced to protect the area in case of any eventuality. Residents kept off the site as their culture, the Kalenjin one to be specific, considers exhumation to be taboo. The court in its ruling, however, stated that the burial was against the Public Health Act.
The challenge of exhuming this body has been the concrete casting, which was covering the top, which we have successfully removed it. Issues to do with bodies, issues to do with corpses are very emotive regarding cultural and religious belief, and that's why it's actually quite dangerous. That's why we have all this massive security.
The late Kipchappas' family members still stand their ground and decry the entire exercise.
Tuna machungu sana. Tumepoteza mtu na at the same time ndio yeye anaenda kufufuliwa. Sisi kama jamii wakiamua kufufua hatutafika hata mahali hapo. Na tunataka ya kwamba wafufue hizo mwili zote ili tuone kitu yenye itafuata.
Kipchappas is to be laid to rest at the Cabernet Cemetery Friday after the family failed to provide an alternative location for his burial. Koroto Day School was built by professionals from the area with the aim of supporting students from humble background with their studies. Ruth Sarmwei, NTV.
May his soul still rest in peace. We're taking a break now on NTV Tonight. I'll be back with the day's business news. Stay with us.
What is family? Family is a solid foundation to build on and a strong pillar to lean on. It is believing in each one of us for the betterment of all of us. Family is working together today to win together tomorrow. It is creating opportunities for a lifetime of happiness. It is knowing we are valued, respected, understood, and most of all, supported. The future is bright because you can always bank on family. Family Bank, with you for life.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
No matter what's going on in the world, there's one place you can go to stay up to date with the latest global news. The BBC News World Service app helps you go behind the headlines and make sense of what's going on around the world. And with a call to listen button, you can listen to live radio without using your data. Download the BBC News World Service app and start listening today.
Aya, yaani tumeuza pickup mzima saa hii. Imeisha.
Ai, kila mtu anataka kununua kwako.
Siri ni hii. Mimi hupanda na Dhabiti DAP na palilia na Dhabiti CAA au Dhabiti Urea. Na bas, matokeo ni mazao ya ajabu.
Dhabiti Algon Fertilizer is your surest partner in successful farming. Dhabiti is available in various sizes that suit your pocket. Algon Kenya, transforming farms and lives through technology.
NTV Business News in association with Cindy.
Now, the government has sought to allay fears that the trade deal between Kenya and the USA is facing a threat from the new administration of President Joe Biden, even as the US government says it is currently reviewing the progress of the talks in alignment with the Biden-Harris administration priorities. In a statement from the Ministry of Trade and Industry dated April 8, 2021, the government indicates that Kenya and the United States held virtual talks on April 1st on trade relations between the two countries, following up on the free trade agreement negotiations that have been going on since last year. The government says the new U.S. administration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris is keen to support the increased contribution of developing countries to the global economy, particularly with growing need for Kenya and the U.S. to be guided by a robust trade policy. Kenya and the US launched trade negotiations on the 8th of July 2020 and have conducted 2 rounds of discussions. The rise in the price of coffee in the global markets is translating into higher incomes for farmers in the country. According to data from the International Coffee Organization, the price of a kilogram of coffee fetched an average of 285 shillings and 67 cents in March, posting a 4.4% increase compared to average prices in January. Farmers in Kirinyaga County say if this trend persists, it could mean that more households revert to coffee farming, a practice which many have abandoned due to depressed incomes.
Vile malipo ya kahawa wakati huu rate zinatokezea kwa sababu hapo mbeleni rate ilikuwa inaenda chini ya 50 shillings na kwa sasa vile iko 100 na zaidi. Farmers are very happy. Tujaribu kumbadilisha hii crop ya hii variety ya kahawa ambayo tulikuwa tunalima zamani ambayo ni SL28. Kwa sababu SL28 iko na shinda nyingi sana, especially because of climatic changes.
The World Trade Organization projects that world GDP will grow by 5.1% in 2021 after contracting by 3.8% last year. The Director General of the WTO says a rapid global and equitable vaccine rollout is the best stimulus plan the world has for the much-needed strong and sustained economic recovery. Here now is Alex Mwangi with a look at the WTO's trade forecast for this year.
The severity of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the global economy, even though still being felt, have continued to taper off. Variants of COVID-19, however, pose a threat to the smooth recovery of global GDP.
Following a sharp decline in the first half of the year, trade recovered more quickly than expected in the second half of 2020. This rebound has continued, and the WTO's baseline trade forecast foresees an 8% increase in the volume of world merchandise trade for 2021.
Overall, I think we'll see trade start to return to a more normal path after 2022, although 2022 is probably a reasonable recovery.
According to the World Trade Organization, the petroleum industry saw a 35% contraction in trade in fuels in 2020. Travel services, which encompass the tourism industry, were down 63% last year.
The rapid development of effective vaccines has given the world a realistic chance of stopping this disease in its tracks and jump-starting the world economy at the same time. But this opportunity could be squandered if large numbers of countries and people do not have equal access to vaccines.
Robert Koopman, WTO's chief economist, says that overall, global trade has been relatively robust despite the pandemic. Koopman tackled the issue of the recently resolved blockade on the Suez Canal by a mega-sized cargo ship and the potential impact that had on the world economy.
The estimate generated by other folks has been about $10 billion per day. That's about 20% of global daily trade. However, that's not lost completely.
The projected growth of 8% in merchandise trade in 2021 is expected to offer some reprieve from the 5.3% dip in global trade volumes last year. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Now, developing economies such as Kenya could soon be able to tap into more credit from the International Monetary Fund following a proposal to review the capital availed for lending. According to the fund's managing director, the board has proposed to scale up allocations based on special drawing rights to the world's most vulnerable economies. The MD was speaking on the sidelines of the ongoing spring meetings, where she also indicated that the fund's lending to sub-Saharan Africa in 2020 was 13 times larger than the annual average of the period between 2009 and 2019.
We will propose a new SDR allocation of $650 billion. This will help address the long-term global need for reserve asset and provide substantial liquidity boost to all our members, especially the most vulnerable.
And that is your day's business news. I'll be back after this short break.
NTV Business News in association with Cindy.
What does it take to move a nation? It takes Sandy.
This looks different.
It is. See for yourself.
Okay, so it's a photo.
Look closer. Photos within photos.
What about video?
8K video. Beyond cinema quality.
So...
You can pull portrait quality photos straight from video.
But will it last the whole trip?
Battery for the whole trip and the way back.
This is different.
Told you.
From your first day at school to you captaining your soccer team, no matter how old you are, you'll always be my baby. That's why I trust Dettol to clean, protect, and keep you refreshed every day. I still can't believe how quickly you've grown. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
Africanacity is not just a word, it is part of who we are. And our commitment to working with you to find a way to get things done. We love Africanacity. We are one with you.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Thanks for staying with us. KDF soldier Daniel Omolo Onyango, who was allegedly killed by his wife who bit him several times, died as a result of low oxygen concentration in his blood, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has said. The post-mortem examination was conducted at the Defence Forces Memorial Hospital by KDF pathologists in the presence of the Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Odwar. Preliminary investigations had shown that the fallen soldier's wife, local musician Violet Asale, bit his chest, shoulder and bit off his finger in their Kahawa Wendani home. Questions have been raised over how a man hardened by battle and jungle tactics, dodged bullets in combat missions, died in his bedroom under such mysterious circumstances. Right, that takes us to a quick break. Now the sports news with Watson Karuma is coming up in just a moment.